Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a Dragon Ball Z game that I missed out on quite a while ago. This is kind of in that era in 2018 when Super was out. Super was popular. Of course, I'm not a fan of that. But I'm kind of thankful that this game is not our typical Dragon Ball Z game of just rehashing the manga or the anime, mainly the anime, over and over and over again. Just with different art styles, different 3D and 2D dimension stuff. This is a game that was very interesting back when it first released a trailer. I remember a lot of people talking about this, but I missed out on it basically until now. I did not play this online at all, by the way. I only played the story mode campaign, the three of them that there are, and I'll get into that in a moment. But this is Dragon Ball FighterZ with a Z instead of an S, or FighterZ. I never can figure out what it is. Anyway, like I said, the game came out in 2018, and it's essentially its own individual, unique storyline. And that storyline sucks ass. It's not good at all. However, that wasn't the reason I played this, nor was it the reason you probably wanted to pick this up or plan on watching this review or whatever. I think all of us were very curious when this thing first dropped its trailer, mainly because it had gone back to that Dragon Ball Z Budokai, not Tenkaichi, but just Budokai, back in the day with just the Budokai series type of style, like a Street Fighter type of thing, or like a Tekken. Like, you just have the two people. It's a regular old fighting game facing towards each other always. If you get your ass kicked, you fall down from the sky or whatever, your character immediately turns facing that other person. It's not like Tenkaichi where you can run away and that kind of thing. This arcade style, I guess is what you would call it, is something that immediately piqued my interest back then, and here I am like 5 or 6 years later, waiting to finally play it. I beat it about 2 or 3 months ago, around the time I played Grand Theft Auto 4 The Lost and Damned again on my PlayStation 3. My copy of Dragon Ball FighterZ is for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, I have the picture up on the screen here, that's what that's what you guys see. Usually I pick the one with the identical cover of what I have or own, no matter what it is, and the correct console if it's a video game. But anyway, Dragon Ball FighterZ, I have to tell you, the glowing thing about this game is the gameplay. The fights themselves are fantastic. They are so satisfying. The sound design is amazing. All of it is so great. It looks like hand-drawn animation, not CGI animation, which has been an issue with most Dragon Ball Z games. There's newer ones like Kakarot that I bought that I still haven't played yet because it was taking so long to get through so many other things I wanted to do. I'll probably play Kakarot at some point here soon. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of on a horror kick recently because of House of Ashes, so I kind of want to stick with that. But I'm also playing Saints Row right now, the 2022 reboot. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times in some of my videos, so you'll probably see a review for that pretty soon too. Anyway, Dragon Ball FighterZ, or FighterZ, has a terrible story. What is that story? Well, Goku and the Z Fighters happen to encounter a revived Android 16. They don't know how that happened. They don't know how he's alive, of course, because of what happened during the Cell games. And like I said, this kind of takes place after Z, and kind of in the midst of Super, from what I can tell. There's like maybe 1 or 2 new characters that I've never seen before. I don't remember who they are, but they're a little bit different. But most of our Z fighters are back in this game. You can play as pretty much all of them. Except for like the other obvious ones who don't fight as often, like Hercule or like Chi-Chi. But the main ones like Krillin, Goku, all of those guys, they're there. You can play as them. They all fight very unique. Very unique. Now, when Android 16 shows up, we're not really sure if it's the same Android 16 we know of from the Cell games, and there's kind of a little bit of confusion with that, but also this leader girl, who I can already tell as soon as I saw this character with her glasses, her big boobs, all of that, I could tell immediately this is going to be one of those cosplay things, and wouldn't you know, as soon as I started looking online, yep, that is the new cosplay obsession. This character, it's not the voice acting that's the problem. The voice actress is very good for this character. I don't remember the name because the character is so forgettable. This character doesn't really have any defining moments to her. She's kind of a knockoff Cell, but she looks like a knockoff Majin Buu. It's really a shame. But you could already tell the thirst in the air as soon as you saw things like that, just like that Lady Dimitrescu, I guess is what the name is, from Resident Evil Village. It's kind of one of those situations. But anyway, she's not a horrible performance, but the character writing is really bad there. The character writing is pretty much bad in the entire game, mainly because you are playing yourself through each of these storylines, but you are somehow mentally connected to each of the Z Fighters or the villains or whatever you're playing as in this game. Now, when I say 3 different storylines, what do I mean? Alright, so this is the big issue for me. The plot probably already doesn't sound very impressive, does it? Well, you're right. Because the first storyline is the heroes, obviously, which is a good move. But so much of the story, particularly the main villain's story, doesn't make any sense. Mainly because we also have a whole map setup, kind of like Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. If you've played that, it's kind of like a game board type of thing. You have your regular Budokai fights, like again, the arcade-style fights. You have that, but you have to play like a board game to line your character up with other people to fight on the maps. So the thing with that is that it gets kind of annoying in that game. And here, it's not so much annoying, it just kind of gets repetitive. You know, and you level up and all that kind of stuff. You can, add powers, unlock skins. You get like 5 billion colors of a character for your main menu screen thing, which is stupid. All of that seems like a giant waste, in my opinion. But the clones in this game that you have to fight are clones of like you, or not you, but like Goku, who I played as all the time, so I'm going to probably say that quite often, is that you are Goku when you're not. But you'll play as like clones of villains and like superheroes and all that shit. Anyway, those clones are basically just clones in the sense of they have paler skin and they have like gray and red themed clothing. That's really it. It's pretty bad. The game seems like it had a lower budget. Even though I love it, I think it's got incredible fights in it. The art style and all of that, like I said, are absolutely extremely impactful. Some of the best Dragon Ball Z fighting game stuff I've ever seen in my life. But a lot of that story mode seems very low budget, But yeah, you fight clones most of the time, and every once in a while you get a really good boss. Like every couple of maps, you might get a really, really good boss. And the story modes can last you probably, depending on how fast you're moving, which the fights can be over in like 2 minutes. Depending on how good you are, they can be over in like 2 minutes. You can get through a whole map in probably maybe 10 minutes. So I would say the game itself per map, if I'm really factoring it in, I never lost a fight in the game. They really didn't get difficult until the third time around playing the story, and I'll explain that in a minute, just like I tried to a moment ago before I got off track. The first 2 times I played through the story were really just not hard at all. Like, I really never had a chance to lose. I was kicking ass the whole game. And there are times I almost slipped up, but still. The game itself is a very forgiving game. It's not going to trap you in a corner and beat you down like your friends will when you play fighting games with them, like in an arcade machine or something. So it's fairly simple. The character stuff is fucking horrible. The board game stuff, I don't really care too much about it, but it wasn't as distracting as I thought it could be. The writing of the characters is bad. What really pissed me off is the fact that I spent most of this game, like the entire Heroes, the first time around of the game, the entire Heroes section of the game, I played almost entirely in Japanese because I didn't know there was an option to switch over to English. I've just been used to putting in a Dragon Ball Z game, and it automatically jumps right to an English option because of my console or whatever. That's very strange. I had to switch over the language when I found out online on Reddit, as a matter of fact. Thank God for you people who put it out there. I was able to change the language even though I had searched and searched and searched. It's a very difficult option to find in the menu. So just know in case you go in the game and you're already pissed off over that like I was, just know that you can change the language to English. And from what I can understand, all of the original voice actors are there, like Sean Schimmel, Christopher Sabat. Everybody's there. Everybody tries. So that's really cool. The cutscenes in the game, like between maps, are really the only times you get cutscenes. But when you get them, they look great. They look really great, especially with the fight sequence stuff. I think it's some of the most beautiful looking graphics for a Dragon Ball Z game ever made to suit up with the colors and everything else for comparison. I love it. I think it's beautiful. It's so incredibly well made, but it's got a lot of flaws. But the flaws themselves really don't harm the game as much. It's only going to be a game that's really going to be harmed that much if you're somebody who doesn't play online, if you're playing story mode like I did. So let me jump back to the story mode thing. The second time around in the game you play the story mode, you get a little bit more of the villain side because you're playing as the villains, like mainly Cell and Frieza. And that is okay to a degree. Then the third time around you play the Android Saga. Not like the Cell Saga Android Saga, but like the Android Saga in this game, which is the perspective of the androids. And finally you fucking understand who this new android is, what does she do, you had to play through the story 3 times. Now, if I had to bet, I would say per round or per section of the game, every time I play through the story, if I had to bet, I would say there's probably maybe 80 fights, maybe 100, somewhere in there. There's a lot of fighting, dude. A lot. So you're probably going to do somewhere between like 150 to like 300 fights by the time you finish all 3 of these, what is technically one giant story that's just divided up on perspectives, just to understand the fucking motivation of your villain, which is really frustrating because you really don't understand the motivation of the villain until you get to almost halfway through the Android saga. Now, I liked filling in the gaps, I liked understanding things, but the villain section with Cell and Frieza is just as long as the other 2, and it felt like I still didn't get any answers for almost anything. For almost any character, any information about like Android, whatever her name is, the new sexy one. That was so annoying. It was so annoying, and I had complained to my wife about that. I love this game. I hope you know that. The music especially is so good here. Usually I'm not a big fan of like the kind of, original music for Dragon Ball. And the music they put in here seems to me like it's custom made for this game that was not from the shows or the movies or anything like that, as far as I know. I don't know about the Super music. It might be something from Super's soundtrack on the TV. I don't know. I haven't watched it. It seems like garbage. Everything I've seen from it, I haven't been impressed. I've liked the manga so far. But I don't know how good the music is or where it's from, but I'll tell you this. Well, I do know how good the music is, because it's really good. It's really eventful. When you start a fight, dude, you are so amped up. Because of how good the music is. Again, it harkens back to me, to the Budokai games, and the Budokai Tenkaichi games on top of that. This feels such like an awesome tribute, and I think such a great return to form for a lot of us who grew up on the Budokai games on PlayStation 2 and Infinite World. That really, really made me feel great when I played it, and I recommend it alone on that if you're a massive fan of those. And even if you're not a fan of Budokai or Infinite World, you should check out this game. It's still around. You can get it for like $20, I think is what I got my copy for last year, I think is when I got it. And it was fantastic. It's so much one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z games ever. Probably my top 5, honestly. I love it. It's absolutely incredible. And again, the art design, I cannot stop talking about how beautiful this game looks. It is so impressive, dude. There's just no words for it. Anyway, with all that being said, Dragon Ball FighterZ, I wish it had a better story. It deserved a better story for what it had, but I think the creators knew that people coming into this game were not going to play it for the story. But I wish they had tried. The story kind of sucks. But everything else is pretty much beautiful. The fights, even on the Nintendo Switch controller, which a lot of people complain about, I don't mind it. I actually really like the controller for the Nintendo Switch. And I mean, like, the Joy-Cons on a... the original, like, handheld console controller adapter thing, whatever that thing is, the little black thing you hook both of the Joy-Cons into. I like that controller a lot. A lot. It's one of my favorites, like up there with GameCube, even though I think the GameCube controller's a little bit more comfortable. And I have some drift on one of the joysticks on mine for this Switch controller. But anyway, I really think it's so comfortable as a game. And I know you can get this game for like PS4 and I think Xbox Series X, maybe 360, I don't know. But dude, if you've not played this, I recommend this so much to you. It is a phenomenal game, one of the best of the series, one of the best ever of this series, and it's fantastic. You owe it to yourself to check out Dragon Ball FighterZ or FighterZ, whatever the title is, if you haven't played it before. Even if you're not a Dragon Ball Z fan, I think you can find a lot of enjoyment in this, even though the story is kind of lackluster. If you go into it knowing nothing, you're really not going to be harmed that much. You really won't have as many issues. One thing I do have to complain about, too, that I think is a big issue to me, just in personal taste and personal opinion, I hate when I get Dragon Ball Z games and I cannot hit a button to turn into a Super Saiyan. I do not like it having predestined that I am already starting the game as a Super Saiyan, or I have to do that particular thing within a fight, like within a special move, like a Kamehameha or something. I don't like that. Why do games do that? That is a thing in this game, and I do not like that shit. I want an actual button where I can turn into a Super Saiyan in the game. But that's just me complaining and whining like a fanboy. Anyway, I have my entitlement, but I do love and cheer for this game. Dragon Ball FighterZ or FighterZ. What did you think about it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you all have to say about this incredible, underrated game, even though people typically love it. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all. Happy New Year, and I will have a review for Saints Row 2022 probably in the next few days, God willing, before I go back to work. I'm still on vacation, but we will see how that whole thing works out. Anyway, thank you guys, God bless you again, and goodbye.